all of a sudden, not only are you stitching amazing insights about customers from different businesses, you're starting to see patterns giving us the greatest insights and unbelievable opportunities to continue making us better on a daily basis.
To me, the differentiator right off the bat is the acknowledgement of the emotional challenge. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in some kind of digital transformation project and the emotional aspect of it is completely ignored.
That is the most intense version of removing friction. To the extent that you're scaring your customers, like this is not real. It's too good to be true scenario, right?
Banking is unique because switching your checking account when it's connected to 40 other accounts is a pain. And so the switching cost is so huge, you get a certain amount of customer loyalty there.
Our job is to see the present very clearly. And if you see the present very clearly, you will execute in the present and you will definitely land in a place where the future looks successful and bright.
We've got a fascinating deep dive coming up into the world of digital first banking and what it really takes to create seamless financial experiences.
You know, this one's really interesting because we talked to Sathish Muthukrishnan, who's the Chief Information Data and Digital Officer at Ally Bank, which is now the largest digital bank in the US.
Sathish tells us the amazing story of how they had 6 different mobile apps serving what they thought were 6 different customer bases. Turns out their customers didn't see it that way at all.
Sathish talks about the 4 types of challenges they had to overcome: technology, process, organizational, and emotional. And honestly, the emotional piece is what most digital transformations completely ignore.
And what I love most about this conversation is how honest Sathish is about the human side of change.
And they get into some really practical stuff too, like building a one-click account opening feature that was so frictionless, customers actually got suspicious and asked, wait, did I really just open an account?
And we dive into this concept of creating a segment of one, although I prefer audience of one, making every customer feel like they're your only customer, which is pretty ambitious when you're serving millions of people, but the data and personalization capabilities are fascinating.
There's also this moment where Sathish calls me out for not being an Ally customer, even though I always thought about them every time I get hit with ATM fees.
So get ready for insights on leading through change, the art and science of removing friction, and what it really means to put customers at the center of everything you do. Let's dive in. So there's lots to talk about here with what you're doing at Ally, but let's start with this whole concept of banking without branches. And maybe for people who aren't familiar with Ally, give us the 30-second elevator pitch of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, let me start with it's not me doing, it's my team and the extended organization that are transforming and at the same time building the future of banking. For those of you who don't know, Ally is the largest digital bank in the US. We are also one of the largest auto lenders in the nation. We originate about $40 billion in loans every year. We have a phenomenal ambition to become America's extraordinary ally for our consumers.
You weren't the first, but you're now the largest. So you guys, I guess, learned from what others did and are improving upon the experience.
What I would say is Ally has a remarkable history. If you look at our auto business, it's over 100 years old. Our bank, though, is very scrappy, was born right after the worst financial crisis our country has seen since the Great Depression. And we were the first digital bank to create something for our customers, not because they wanted another bank, but because they wanted a better bank. And the story of how it was built is super cool. And it still gives me goosebumps when I hear it. Literally, a few of them still here got into a room and wrote down what they don't like with their bank. And they were all banking with different institutions. It's like, I don't like all of these disclosures. I don't like these friction-filled experiences. I don't like all these fees. So they said, how can we build a bank that doesn't have all of this? And hence Ally was born.
Wow, that's an awesome story. Now, you've talked a little bit about when we were chatting the other day about the One Ally vision. Talk about what that is and what inspired that vision.
You called us a digital bank, and I called ourselves a scrappy bank. When you're a scrappy startup, you do what it takes to grow your business. So, as we were growing from a dedicated auto lender to lending through most of the dealers in the country, then building a bank, adding on additional products such as credit card lending, mortgage, insurance, you tend to build capabilities for those customers. And when you're a startup, literally we were a startup, we're still a young startup, you do what it takes to serve the customers. And what that led to was having six different apps, mobile apps, serving six different customer bases, or what we thought were six different customer bases. And in some aspects, when you have multiple relationships with us, you needed to have multiple IDs. So the notion of how do I create a unified digital experience that continues to differentiate and separate us from all of the different banks that are out there. To be honest with you, our consumers don't compare us to a bank. They compare us to the next app that is on their iPhone that they see. So it was imperative that while we transformed, we also created this unique experience and continue to make it easy for our consumers. So we had to narrow down these six apps into one that was serving all of these different businesses that we had. It's very easy to say, but think about bringing all of the different business leaders and saying you're going to have a single technology digital landscape that is going to serve all your customers. You then start to look at all the constraints that you're going to get. If I'm the business owner, I'm going to say, oh, you're going to go spend all your effort in how the bank works, not how the auto customers want, or vice versa. But that is the magic of Ally. All the leaders here think Ally and put customers in the center of what they do. And we all came together to say, how can we create this one Ally vision? So we are now down to a single app. And the science behind that is the technology team took it to heart and fundamentally transformed the tech stack behind it. So we no longer build for a single mobile operating system, like building for iOS or building for Android. We now have a common platform where we build once and deploy it across all of these platforms. We reimagined how mobile works. We reimagined where these applications are running by going to a scalable platform in a cloud. We brought together all of the data that was dispersed across the company. All of a sudden, not only are you stitching amazing insights about customers from different businesses, you're starting to see patterns, you're starting to see how customers interact with us, that giving us the greatest insights and unbelievable opportunities to continue making us better on a daily basis. So that's what One Ally has enabled. It is not a digital transformation, it's not a technology transformation, it is a vision that is enabling us to build the bank of the future.
Kind of locked on to a comment you said very early where you said we had six different apps because we had six different types of customers, or so we thought. And that's what you just kind of led into there. So I was going to ask about it, but I found that to be a very interesting way to talk about it, because when you say, or so we thought, you're really finding out now with this one app just how many customers cross the brand and have brand loyalty, as opposed to simply chose it because the car dealership recommended it or something along the lines, right? Like you're actually finding that customers stay with it.
Nick, 100% right. We have the industry leading customer retention rate, which is north of 95%. And if you ask our customer service satisfaction rate, it's about 90%. Those are lagging indicators of what customers think about us. but we have to earn the right to serve them. And we also, with the help of technology, have the ability to predict what they might want. So if you individually see who an auto consumer is and what they want, perhaps they may not need the products that we have today. But the ability to derive data, insights from the data that we collect, potentially will help us build products that might help our consumers from the auto to have multiple relations with the bank. We have seen that almost, and I may be off on the numbers a little bit here, almost 90% of our invest customers come from our deposit base. And we took it upon ourselves to say, how can you make it easy for our deposit customers to open an invest account? I mean, of course, you have to follow FINRA guidelines. You have to give them the right disclosures. But if it was purely up to tech, it could be a one-click account opening. Literally, without the disclosures, it could be a one-click account opening for you to open an invest account. So I'm giving you an example of how we think about it. When we had the mortgage business, similar number of customers were internal. So individually, when you think about all of this and you're building capabilities for consumers, you're doing the right thing from a mortgage perspective. Now you step back and say, from an ally perspective, how do you serve the customers when they need you best? And that is what our ambition is going to be, which is to be the most extraordinary ally, financial ally for our consumers.
What were some of the biggest internal obstacles that you had to overcome in order to make this one ally vision happen?
There are technology challenges you have to deal with. There are process challenges you have to deal with. There are organizational challenges you have to deal with. And then there are emotional challenges that you have to deal with. So this is where I say a technology leader cannot just operate as a technology leader. If I just focus on, that tech is easy to replace, and I can bring this new modern, cutting edge technology, contemporary technology that's going to make it better, that is not going to serve the other three aspects that I talked about. It ultimately is, what business outcomes are we driving that makes our customers happier about doing business with Ally? I often say magic happens at the intersection of differentiated customer experience, driving business results, using cutting edge technology. And that is hard to bring together. But we took it upon ourselves to say, that's what we need. So obviously, from an organizational standpoint, I have to go explain this notion to the business leaders, saying, I am bringing all of this tech together. But the upside of that is I have lesser tech to protect. I have lesser tech to secure. I have lesser tech to be running operations on, which is going to bring down the technology cost. That is going to create operating leverage so we can go invest in newer capabilities for the customers, either increasing the customers or building new features. Same with the bank and the auto insurance customers, insurance presidents. Those were the types of conversations we had. And internally, if you think about, let me just touch on an emotional aspect of this. My team that works on iOS believes in iOS. They want to build apps using the iOS operating system. Same with Android. Nothing wrong with it. That's what they know. That's what they want to do. And they're investing their energy and effort in it. Now, if I say I'm going to create a platform that is not going to let you work on one of the other operating systems, but you're going to create common code, that's an emotional change. And my leaders did an amazing job of bringing the team together. But more importantly, the team saw the bigger vision. So they're like, I'm going to give up some that I like doing, but I'm going to gain a new capability that I'm going to build something cool with. So it all the way from that, and then I'll talk about the process challenges. When you have your own bucket of money, you segregate it from the rest of the enterprise, I can choose to figure out how I'm going to invest it. Now you're pooling that all and saying we're going to build common capabilities that is going to benefit Ally as a whole, not individually. Individually, they're brilliant businesses doing great. Now you had to give up a little and maybe even slow down your progress so the other part of the business is benefiting this year and vice versa next year. So there is organizational challenges, process challenges, technology challenges, and emotional challenges that you all have to overcome to achieve something that is greater than all of us. But again, going towards building the future of banking and having this extraordinary vision for us.
I mean, to me, the differentiator right off the bat is the acknowledgement of the emotional challenge. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in some kind of digital transformation project and the emotional aspect of it is completely ignored. You just assume everyone's on board. You just assume that people are going to agree with you because that's what, it's innovative, it's shiny, it's new, it's great, it's grand. But when push comes to shove, there's an emotional investment in the past that if you don't get over it, or if you don't find a way to harness it in a positive light, you're just simply going to fail, at least for that part of the organization. Maybe somebody would even sabotage it. I don't know hopefully that's not true for most brands, but I mean, certainly could be true.
Ultimately, we're all humans and everybody wants to be valued. Everybody wants to be part of something extraordinary, something great. You do not want to be not missed when you're not here. People feel like I loved working with Nick. I loved working with Chuck. I hate that they're not part of the team anymore, right? That's the mentality they come with. And luckily for us, the culture we have at Ally organically promotes that. And I believe as a leader, my job, number one, is to explain the why and be patient with explaining the why. As technologist, as a technology leader, you have to live in the past, the present, and the future. As soon as I know what technology I'm going to use and what problem I'm going to solve, I quickly make the shift to living in the future and saying, let me get there faster, let me get there faster. But I have to fight that instinct and say, let me live in the past and see what these people have done to build what you're trying to disrupt. What have they gone through? And how can I handhold them, bring them along in the present? Our job is to see the present very clearly. And if you see the present very clearly, you will execute in the present. You will take care of all of these different aspects of becoming successful without even focusing on what you require to become successful. And you will definitely land in a place where the future looks successful and bright. So if I see the present very clearly, then the hard things of fighting against the urge, working on the emotions, understanding what the team is going through to remove the hurdles, having the patience to explain the why, all comes naturally.
Hey Nick, remind me again, how much money can a retailer lose if their site is just 0.1 seconds slower during Black Friday?
Millions. And I'm not exaggerating. We've seen it in the data.
Which is why we've pulled together the 2025 Black Friday Cyber Monday Performance Playbook.
Yep, and that's real tactics from top retailers, includes core web vitals, performance budgets, checkout speed tips, and more.
If you're prepping for Black Friday, you need this. It's free, ungated, and honestly,
could save your holiday revenue.
Download it at bluetriangle.com/ebook. Or we'll put the link in the show notes. One of the topics that we've interviewed a number of guests on the show, and sometimes we talk to guests, from retailers, from mass merchant retailers, where if the site has friction, if there's something going on or the app is experiencing an outage or something, well, I'll just go over to the competitor and I'll complete my transaction there. One of the things that we talked about, because we had Sean Shealy from US Bank on probably about a year ago, and we talked about banking is unique because switching your checking account when it's connected to 40 other accounts is a pain. And so the switching cost is so huge, you get a certain amount of customer loyalty there that's built in, and where they'll put up with a certain amount of friction. How do you think about measuring the real cost of friction then in your business? Because you guys are obviously driven toward customer satisfaction and you want enthusiastic customers. How do you guys think about that and how do you measure for that?
I'll give you the most intense answer for that, and I'll also give you the realistic answer. I'm lucky that I am responsible for UI, UX, and product. And part of that is what we have called usability labs. So anytime we build something, we bring in a group of consumers, customers, and non-customers sitting on the other side of the glass, walking through what we are trying to build and see how they behave. And then there is a portion where we ask them questions on how do you like it? What would you change, etc. Again, it's a small sample size, but it's unbelievably terrific. So there is this notion of I need to remove friction from everything that I do, but at what cost? So the team built the ability to open a new account. Let's assume it's a savings account. Like you are already a customer, we know everything about you. You're opening a new CD, and they called it one-click account opening. Literally, it was one click. It says, do you want to open a new CD? Just enter the number, whatever dollar amount. I don't remember the exact screens right now, but it was one screen, one click. The tech was built. I mean, obviously mocked up tech, right? But it was built. And in the usability studies, people were like, okay, what else? Well, I mean, am I not supposed to read something? Should I not be seeing something? Did I actually open an account? That is the most intense version of removing friction. To the extent that you're scaring your customers. Like, this is not real. It's too good to be true scenario, right? So we literally had to create a screen and have them click a checkbox to say you are actually opening an account. It is true. So how do you measure friction? You measure friction through a number of ways. So part of having the UI UX, I do it too, and my team does it way better than I do, which is read every comment, solicited and unsolicited, that we get from customers. You tend to gain so much insights from it. We then go through all of the digital interactions and see where customers are spending time, where they're dropping off, what is happening. And a good example of that would be we have a section in our website, ally.com, called Conversationally. Conversationally is a place where consumers come to learn about getting themselves smarter about finances. How do I save for my first home? How do I be more savvy about my spending habits? How do I save for my vacation, etc.? So we put our heart and soul into it and write the content from a more practical perspective. But they tend to be long. So the consumers who actually are looking for this content will open the content and they're like, oh my God, this is so long. I'm going to drop off, right? So what we did was we used generative AI and we created the top insights from that article, 4 or 5. So as soon as you click it, you're not getting the full article, you're getting the summary of the article. And we saw that consumers are engaging with these articles more. I mean, almost a 30% jump in terms of time spent. So introducing friction for the benefit of consumers and customers is super critical. But you have to understand where real friction is and be able to remove it. I mean, my CEO sits in a monthly forum called Customer Complaints Forum. The entire leadership team sits and hears about the top complaints, hears about the patterns in which the complaints are coming, etc. And the head of the banking has an interesting perspective. Lindsay, I work very closely with her. Her view is every call that my customer care reps get is a defect that we have to go solve. It's a tremendous mindset to have. It might sound as if like you have a lot of issues, but really not. Like, it gives you the opportunity to talk to the customers and understand where they're coming from and have the ability to go solve it. So there is verbalized complaints, there is unsolicited comments and feedback that we get, Then there is unspoken actions that we learn from. All of this gives us insights around what friction we have and what we do not, and allows us to say, do we introduce friction or we take it out? Ultimately, we are constantly trying to focus on consumers and trying to make it easy for them to do business with Ally.
So what is it like being in that meeting and then you read a comment that's woefully underwritten? Something, and this happened at Home Depot all the time. We would see comments come in and say, this site sucks. Like, what do you do with that? Because you don't stop there. You still want to figure out why they're so angry, but they're angry. Where do you take that?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like people say, your app is too complicated. What are you looking for? What were you trying to do? And you start to look for patterns, right? Like, so there has been instances where people saying login is too difficult. And that might be a security that we had introduced because you're seeing attacks from like nation state attacks. And it might be causing you to authenticate yourself again, even from a known device, which we may not have done in the past. And that would lead to comments like that. So it is trying to connect the dots and correlate to see what we have done. Did we do something to make sure that we are doubly secure that the right person is logging in? And you tend to understand that. So it is, again, an opportunity for me to go dig deeper to see what the team has done. And then the next time is, if I'm going to introduce something like that, even if it is a security feature, am I increasing my observability to make sure that the customers who should not be penalized or who should not be doing the multiple authentication are not doing it and trying and avoiding it? So incremental improvements. You can never get customer experience right the one time. I learned early on in my career that any change in customer experience to be finalized takes 27 tries in front of the customer. So you keep changing and you keep iterating. The faster you get to understanding what the friction is or what the ultimate goal with the consumer is, then you arrive at the final solution.
So how do you maintain the human touch then when you're a digital only bank?
That is the art and science of being Ally. You can pick up the phone and call and talk to us 24/7. The call duration on an average is between 12 to 15 minutes. I've gone and sat in customer care centers and I see the ability we have in our frontline employees. I actually compare them to your financial planner, not a customer service associate. They fly through these different accounts. They answer these super complicated questions. They're analyzing what you have done, your activity, and immediately proposing solutions. They do an unbelievable job. That is one. If you need hand-holding or if you need questions to be answered immediately, so you pick up the phone and call 24/7, and our customer care associates are the human representation of our bank, or the physical branch representation of our bank, if you will. So while that is there, we are constantly learning and understanding how our mobile experiences, how our web experiences, how are customers using us, what are they using us for. While that is super critical, what that leads us is to build customization within those digital assets. So we rolled out the ability for you to move your accounts around instead of being static. You log into our dashboard, if you will, or we call it storefront. And let's say you have multiple CDs and if you have an invest account, if it was the last account that you opened, chronologically, that'll be at the bottom of the page. But that may be the first one that you want to look at. They have the ability to move it to the top. So it's not almost as if we would love to get to a place where every customer feels as if they are our only customer. And us being a digital bank, we have the ability to do that. Obviously, it'll take investment, it'll take time, it'll take iteration, it'll take learning. But if I have the data to predict what our customers want, and serve it up even before they want it, then my customers are going to feel as if they're our only customers. And I lovingly call it segment of one. That is where I want to get to. So when they compare me to the app that is right next to them on the phone, Ally is always going to stand out.
Well, I know a thing or two about an audience of one. I actually wrote a book called An Audience of One. You guys should give it away to customers.
I
I'll
see
tell
it
you.
right behind you. Why do you think I brought it up?
I appreciate the plug.
I have a very personal story that kind of also kind of answers from my own perspective. I am not an Ally Bank customer. However, I know of one feature that you guys have that is, to me, a huge differentiator and always has me saying to myself, I should migrate. And that's that you reimburse ATM fees. I don't go to the ATM all the time, but when I go to the ATM, it is never to my own bank. And I always see this little screen that says $3.50 to pull this transaction. And I always pull out way more money than I need because I want to just get the most out of this little fee. But every time, totally honest, every time I see $3.50, I see Ally's logo on my face. Like, it's just like sitting right there, like Ally Bank right there. Boom. Because that is just it just resonates in my mind. And I mean, I guess to some regard, it hasn't motivated me to migrate yet, but I think about it all the time. Every time I'm looking at one of those ATM fees, and I get hit with it all the time.
I challenge you to migrate. You'll see how easy it is to open an online banking account.
Hey, challenge accepted. I mean, I'm motivated today for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about culture and what have you learned about how to structure and lead teams to get maximum alignment and agility out of your teams?
Culture is hard to put in words, but easy to feel. You can talk about the most pristine work condition, team, etc. But unless people feel it, they probably are not going to believe in it, right? And culture to me has to be the most inclusive in terms of providing opportunities, a platform for everybody to bring the best out of them. And bringing best out of my employees is the number one job as a leader for me, and that's what I expect my leaders to do. So if you have high expectations, and if you provide the right support system for them to meet those expectations, and if you have a recognition system that rewards their efforts, and if you constantly and always have the back for the right things that they do, you will tend to have a culture that is supremely high performing for the collective team. And when you have a team of high performers, you create magic, and that magic translates into culture internally as well as magic for customers. So it is not, I'm going into work, I'm having fun, and I can just choose to leave whenever. We do challenging work. We do things that are hard so we can create easy experiences for our customers. And my team believes in it. Like, if I start to list out all the accomplishments that this technology team has accomplished and the collective that the teammates across Ally have accomplished, it's unbelievable. We survived COVID, we survived the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, we survived the interest rates volatility, and we continue to be one of the most liked banks out there. I talked about the retention rate. And even in my team, within my own team, the attrition rates have never gone to alarming levels. Even during COVID, when it was in 25, 30%, I was in the low 10 and 11%. So people love to come here. And my philosophy, if you ask me to simplify all of it, very hard to achieve. But what I strive for every day is I build a team of rock stars that everybody wants to hire from, but nobody wants to leave.
So, Sathish, what's one widely held belief about frictionless digital experiences that you think people get completely wrong, that you fundamentally disagree with?
One thing that comes to mind is when you talk digital and when you talk experience, people immediately jump to I want to invest in tech. I want to get the most contemporary, modern tech I can to throw at my customers. But it's not necessarily that. It is, how do you show up for your customers when they need you most and you give them what they want in the most simple form possible? And that requires complete understanding of not just what the customer wants, but what is the business impact you're having and what is the right technology that is required for that. Going back to the Venn diagram where you have all of these three things, when they come together, you create magic. So it's super critical to understand holistically, end to end, front to back, what is it that you are trying to provide to your customer? Is it a capability, experience, service? When do they want it? Why do they want it? And how do you build it in a way that it is sustainable, durable, creating business impact, and the technology that allows it to be available the entire time and highly resilient? And oh, by the way, we've built an experience that our customers will go out and talk about. That is one thing that is fundamental, because people will quickly say, oh, we have to migrate to cloud. I have to create automation. I need to have AI. I need to have all these apps. All of those are important. But why do you need them, and what are you trying to build them, would be my counsel to people who are thinking about digital transformation.
So magic happens at the intersection of
business impact, customer experience, and the right fit technology.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being on the show today. What's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you or connect with you if they'd like to carry on the conversation?
LinkedIn is my friend. I learn a lot from LinkedIn. I love to see what our competitors are doing. I love to see the companies that are not in our industry are doing. Love to see what different leaders are doing. It's just an unbelievably like a voracious learning platform for me, and I'm pretty active there. I love boasting about the work that my team does. You cannot see me being satisfied with the pride that I exuberate because of all the work that they do, because I have frontline seat to all the troubles and the hardships they overcome, but yet be able to deliver for our business day in and day out. So I love sharing those messages.
Awesome. So connect with Sathish on LinkedIn. And thanks for tuning into the Frictionless Experience. We appreciate you being part of this journey into the messy, fascinating world of innovation behind the scenes. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter where we fill in between the weeks, between episodes. And then you can connect with Nick and I on LinkedIn. I am at Chuck Moxley, and Nick is
at In Paladino.